Does the United States respect the UN Charter that it wrote?
Of course not. Not at all. In fact, Mr. Stephen Miller, who's called the brains of the White House, under some bizarre definition, says openly, those are niceties. That doesn't matter. The UN Charter means nothing. It's only power that counts. That's the language of fascism. That's not the language of democracy, which depends on the rule of law, which is based on the rule of law. And the idea that there isn't international rule of law would come as a big surprise to most American presidents over more than 2 centuries, who understood about treaties and cared about treaties. And the UN Charter is a treaty which the United States Senate ratified in July 1945. It's not just something that was waved in front of us. It was written, first draft by the United States under President Franklin Roosevelt's leadership. It was negotiated by the founding member states of the UN, and then it was ratified by the United States Senate. And that makes it the law of the land under the US Constitution. But does the United States respect the UN Charter? No, not for one moment.
How destructive an act was Trump's withdrawal of the United States from the JCPOA?
About the concern of Iran getting a nuclear weapon. And those concerns go back decades. And the Iranians have said repeatedly that on religious grounds alone, on the supreme leader's command, they are not aiming for a nuclear weapon. And they have held that consistently for more than 30 years. Israel has claimed, and this is especially Bibi Netanyahu, that the breakout to nuclear weapons would happen within a week, a month, a year. And he's been saying that since 1996. Bibi Netanyahu is absolutely one of the most obnoxious liars in the world and one of the most destructive leaders in the world, who has pulled the United States into more terrible misadventures than anybody. And he's been wrong on this issue for decades. But it has been Israel's purpose to overthrow the Iranian government for decades. In other words, Iran negotiated. The negotiations were successful. An agreement was reached. The International Atomic Agency was monitoring this, and then Trump ripped it up. That's the basic story. That's the story with so much of our problem in the world. The United States can't take yes for an answer. The United States couldn't take yes for an answer after 1991 with Russia. It demanded subservience of Russia. It overthrew governments in Russia's neighborhood. It tried NATO expansion contrary to promises. And the United States could not take yes for an answer with regard to Iran. Why is that? Well, the Zionist lobby is the overwhelming reason. In other words, Israel said, no, do not negotiate, do not have diplomacy with Iran. We want to overthrow the government of Iran. The problem is the United States not only does not believe in the UN Charter, it doesn't even believe in its own word, which is pretty much worthless because the U.S. repudiates its own negotiations.
What are the strategic risks of fighting a war with Iran, an American-Israeli war against Iran?
Well, one is a nuclear Armageddon. That's simple. If Iran wanted to make a dash for nuclear weapons, it probably could do so. That's a starting point. It has not wanted to do so. But if it were an existential danger of being crushed by the United States and Israel, who knows what they would do? Or it could get a bomb from somewhere else. because they're not in short supply, by the way. And so the whole point is, it's unbelievable that Trump thinks that he can say Iran's not serious about negotiating, where he ripped up the agreement. And then last year when they were negotiating and Mr. Witkoff and others said, yes, we're making progress, then the United States bombed and Israel bombed Iran 2 days before what was supposed to be the 6th round of negotiations. So what is the implication of this? The implication is that Iran, which is a country of nearly 100 million people, with hypersonic missiles, with enriched uranium, anything could happen. We shouldn't play with global nuclear suicide.